Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Daily AI Show. Today is February 23rd, 2026, and I'm here with Beth Lyons. I'm Brian Messeri. Appreciate y'all already being here, and Beth and I were thrown off because Jeff has put a morning haiku, I think. I mean, they were saying, Jude was saying it was a haiku. I haven't counted all the syllables. It's been too long since I've tried my brain haikus, but this is what Jeff says. Steam curls through morning light, coffee warms while robots speak, circuits hum softly. So there you go. There's your Monday morning motivation. That's a lot of M's. But we appreciate y'all being here. Yes, I'm sorry.
Because we are an AI show, my total response for that was like, oh no, did Anthropic release haiku? No, that's not what that meant.
Yeah, it could have been. I mean, Jeff is so plugged into this stuff. Jeff could have been giving us a total heads up there. That's true. We love our folks in the comments. If it's a good time to remind y'all, thank you to everybody who's already there, hanging out with us 2 minutes into our show on a Monday. We appreciate y'all very much. Thanks for being there. And that's just a good reminder to anybody else. If you ever are available or free at 10 a.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday, well, then you have an opportunity to literally be part of the live show. And the way you would do that is going over to YouTube and just go into our live stream, which is what you would be watching right now, and you will see an opportunity to do it. Now, you can also send in comments through LinkedIn. Here's why we recommend not doing that unless you just happen to be on that platform, which I totally understand there, because you can't see all the other comments. And so honestly, it's just a better user experience on YouTube. There's also some issues from time to time with us being able to see some names. Now, YouTube switched not too long ago, and now it's all like usernames, which it wasn't always before. So sometimes me and Beth are like, Big Brain 26. So that's sometimes it's so hard. I have to squint my eyes and be like, who is that? And somebody go, oh, that's so-and-so. That's one of our regulars. So that threw me. But anyway, these are Monday morning problems, not real problems, right? So let's get into the AI of it all. That's why y'all are here, is to hopefully learn a thing or two, help along the way. If you have some guidance, maybe you like haiku coming out, which I guess it hasn't yet. And we usually kick things off, especially on the weekend, because there's been 2 extra days in there, right? It's not just 24 hours. And talking about some of the news. Now, Beth, you were here last week hanging out. I couldn't be here on Thursday and Friday due to other work obligations. So I'm not 100% sure of all the... I know I process all the shows and I do the newsletter, but I'm still not 100% sure what was or wasn't covered. But I don't think you talked all about this yet. And that was Sam Altman. Oh man, where is it? Here it is. But I thought I brought up the video too. I did. Okay. Sorry, I'm talking to myself. So Sam Altman was at the Express ADDA or ADA event. Don't know which one that is, but he was being interviewed, and oftentimes is where, just like all the other like sort of founders, we get to, or the leaders of the founding models, we get to hear a couple quips here or there. Sometimes they're like, oh, I've heard this before, and other times it's actually pretty valuable. So I'm going to bring this one up because I do want to kind of talk about this, and maybe Beth, we could do the rest of the news and come back to this topic, but I wanted to kind of just throw it in there as a talking point. Here we go. Up on the screen it goes. All right, let's just look. It's like 10 seconds, 15 seconds of Sam. This is the person interviewing him, followed by Sam's answer.
Views on Claude safety chief Mrinal Sharma's dramatic resignation. I don't know if you followed that, but it made a lot of news.
I heard something about it.
Okay.
Like they resigned and
he resigned
a letter about it's all useless or something.
Yeah, was going to go to hell.
I might be one question early. Keep listening. Sorry, I tried to get it to the exact point, but keep listening here.
I want to go write poetry. It was that direction. And
But
a lot of safety people are getting, I think, overwhelmed. I mean, that's the real piece I wanted you to reflect on.
The part of it I agree with is the inside view at the companies of looking what's going to happen. Like, the world is not prepared. We're going to have extremely capable models soon. It's going to be a faster takeoff than I originally thought. And that is stressful and anxiety inducing.
Okay. That's the part I wanted to play. Just that little last clip there of Sam talking about the world is not prepared. And I think it's probably a bigger conversation. That's why I just want to tee it up, Beth, because it is news. He was talking about it. There's some other clips that I won't bring up the clips, but he said he talked about the future of work. The way I learned to write software is now effectively completely irrelevant. There will still be software developers, he said, but writing, C++ code by hand, that's over. He also said big categories of jobs, AI is just going to completely obsolete, while others will barely be affected. And then he pointed to graphic designers as an example. Simple commission work like birthday invitations could easily be replaced by AI, but the quote price of AI generated art is zero, and the price of human generated graphic art has continued to go up since that happened. So just a couple different pulled out clips. And by the way, I want to always give credit. I originally learned about this coming out of, was it AI Breakfast, which is a newsletter I follow, but then they were quoting thedecoder.com. That's with a hyphen in between the and decoder. And so that's where I was getting this information from. I would just like to be cool about the sources, especially if I'm reading newsletters and somebody's made this easy for me. And then I'm bringing it out to, I like to make sure everybody knows where this stuff is coming from. Where are we learning about it and stuff, especially if you want to go sign up for a couple of these newsletters. What are your takes on that, Beth, as far as like some of the news? And again, we can always circle back to the larger discussion.
I think I think we've seen that pattern from a couple different people over the last couple of weeks, right? And I know the resignation letter that they're talking about, and that's a very interesting thing to bring up. I had it teed up for last week, but there are just so many stories happening.
Tell me a little bit about that, because I don't think I do know the full context of where that question started, and of course he pivoted into the part I wanted to share. But
so basically the person who was in charge of Anthropic's safety program, right? Like wrote all of the research, did all of the things. Obviously, he had a department, but he was the vision behind it. And he left, and he made public his resignation letter. And he's obviously a very interesting guy, because he was very interested in poetry before he left. But in his resignation letter, he said, I'm paraphrasing. He said, basically, I don't feel like I can be effective in this anymore, because I feel the pressure to let the models go, right? I feel the pressure from the company. I feel the pressure internally. I don't feel like I can do this anymore. So I'm going to go to another country to study poetry. Now, maybe he lived there before, right? He's going after his poetry degree. But it was when somebody involved in AI safety at the top level, at one of the frontier labs, says, I'm having a hard time doing my job in the ways that we need me to do my job. And it's not just the pressure there, it's a pressure internally, like all these things. I love poetry. I'm going to go do that. Yep. Right? There were some like, is this a signal of the apocalypse, right? Like, if the world were ending, what, right? If the world were ending, would you come over, right? Like, are we gonna like do it? It's like had a little bit of that vibe. It's also very potentially not at all that vibe. This is just a guy who's working at the top level of his thing, and he wants to go do something else.
Look, burnout's a real thing. I can imagine that must be a crazy stressful job, especially considering, their constitution, Anthropic. If he's been around long enough, he would have had, been the architect or a writer of parts of that, right?
I think so.
That's stressful. So from the human element, I absolutely get, I'm probably financially set. I'm going to guess that he's financially okay. Okay. Maybe not a billionaire, but okay. Right. Set.
When did billionaire become them? Right.
I know. Right. I know. But I mean, how this goes. And if he had an early invest, if he had any, not stock options, obviously, but if he had any piece of it early on, then of course we would expect he probably is done okay for his work, especially something like security, like the Constitution over at Anthropic. Now, the other side of this, obviously, Beth, and we're just speculating, is like, yeah, is it, if the story was, I'm going to go live peacefully on a mountainside somewhere and just study poetry, I'd be like, oof, like there's a lot there to discuss, like why were you always going to go, to your point, were you always going to go live on a mountainside, or do you know something the rest of us don't know, and you're like, you know what, I'm just going to disconnect a little bit, and because this is a runaway train, this is Pandora's box, and there's only so many places to hide,
Well, and we know from Ockensteiner, sorry. That was like, I don't know, a week and a half ago, or like 1980. But we know from what he wrote, and he was also in the room in OpenAI, we know one of the answers to your question is yes, they know things we don't.
Oh, well, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah.
They all know things we don't. We don't know what it is. We don't know how that interfaces with their personality, family, life goals, etc. But they definitely have. They're definitely people who are in the room, right? Situation.
That's why when we hear these little. And by the way, Carl joined us. Hey, Carl, welcome. What I was going to say is, like, you're right. There's a lot of people who know things that we don't know, right? Even though we pay attention to this stuff, we can speculate, but we're not in the room and we don't know unless somebody leaks something or whatever, or does like a very public resignation that's a little bit more telling. I didn't read this one, but I'm just saying, now conversely, something like a Sam Altman, or a Dario, or anybody really that's at the head of these companies that perhaps are looking for IPOs in the nearish future. I do always take whatever Sam says now with a grain of salt, just because like early on, he wasn't in that position per se. And like, he was acting a little bit more like a startup founder. I mean, the reality is you get to the level that he's at, and if you're going to stay there, just like a Mark Zuckerberg or whatever, you have people who are eating you, training you, teaching you how to handle PR events and these types of situations. And so anytime he talks about AGI rather, like he did in that clip, part of me wants to go, well, I've heard Sam talk before and he's always been pretty open and honest about that. And the other part of my brain goes, also just remember that he is in charge of a very fast moving ship that's spending billions of dollars in the red in a lot of ways. And he's also responsible for potential future IPOs and things like that. And, whatever the case may be. So anyway, it's always something to remember, is like, oh, Sam said this. And then it's always like, yeah, but also let's just remember the role he sits in and what he also has to do for the company to keep it solvent and everything else. So, there's that part of it too. So anyway.
Right. And let me come back to you. Yeah, too many tabs open. Where are you talking to me from, Brian? It's got a little record circle, Beth. That's how you know you're live on the air. Leopold Aschenbrenner, nice. Thank you, Cisco. And he was the situation awareness guy.
Yeah. I wish he would write another paper. That thing still blows my mind. I'll never forget. That's a paper that I've told you guys that, but like, you say his name and I go Austin Airport, delayed for a flight, reading that paper. Yeah, I could tell you what the gate looked like when I was sitting on my phone reading that. That's how much of an impact that paper had on me. Mm-hmm. So cool. Like, that's been what, a year and a half more, something like that. And I'm like, no, Leopold's paper was like, that was just different for me. So I can't wait for him to write. I hope he writes something else. Sorry. Anyway.
No, speaking of a year ago, Friday, I believe Friday or Thursday was the anniversary of 1 year of Claude Code. And we've done this for ChatGPT, right? This is the anniversary of ChatGPT. Claude Code has changed a ton of stuff, maybe for a smaller population than it changed for ChatGPT, which is a small population of all of the population. But Claude Code absolutely is a deal breaker. So happy birthday to Claude Code.
Yeah, and there's a good example of something I think, Carl, just to bring you into the conversation, you probably were the first person. Forgive me, Beth, if it was you or it was Andy or something else, but I kind of remember you talking earlier about Claude Code, and honestly, I looked at it, and because of computer use and things that may be done before, and I was like, okay, that sounds. Be careful. Anthropic was certainly putting out stuff and saying, be careful, like what he has access to and stuff like that. And now it's just a much more normal conversation, which is interesting because I wonder if these same conversations were happening. I was a little bit too young. I was around, but I was too young to be like using the systems. But is this the way people felt when like your first Windows really came out? Operating system like Windows, where it was a GUI and like you had all these windows, you had these little drop downs or whatever, were people having the same conversations going, that terminal is super reliable and they've made this pretty thing over here, but be careful. It may not actually be moving the ones and zeros around the way it does if you're looking at it at a C prompt, or DOS prompt rather. And so I imagine these conversations were happening back then too, which is just people being, cautious about some new program. And now I kind of feel like it's just like, oh, Claude Code, we just talk about it, and open Claude and things like that too. But I'm not concerned as long as Claude Code is pointing to what I've given it access to. I don't know that I really worry about Claude Code any more or less than I would about worrying about malware in Windows. I think about it. I try to have a process for it. I try to limit things the best I can, and I go about my day because it's ultimately net positive, right?
So absolutely. And there was so today is episode 666, everybody. And so we may have some horror stories that are unintentionally horrific. There's a story going around on X of someone saying, "Hey, so I had a process, with Telegram or whatever, I had messaged my open Claw instance to help me clean out the inbox, and there were all of these flag the things that can be deleted, right? It was like very careful instructions, and if you're in this in any way, that there's something that is called compaction that happens once the context window gets filled up. Well, compaction forgot the tell me about the things that you think should be deleted.
Yeah.
And just said, do the things that you think should be deleted. And because she's talking to OpenClaw, she pasted her screenshots of the conversation because she's like, wait, no, right? Like she's doing it all from her phone. Like, no, trying to run to her thing, see if she could stop it from deleting the entire inbox. Yeah. So while there are things absolutely that I trust more than I would before, I feel like there are just new nightmares around the corner to be thought about. I personally am I have an anxiety reaction to compaction. Like that message that comes up, because I use it in the terminal. There's a message that comes up that says, you have 12 minutes until compaction, Beth. And I'm like, no, wait. What do we need to do before it's going to compact? Don't.
Seriously, remember this. It's like the movie Coco. Remember me. Start thinking about it. Yeah, I've definitely, I've talked about some of those nightmare scenarios. Although I find I've used Claude Cowork. I used Cowork actually for some cool budget things over the weekend to help me get caught up. Some places I dropped the ball. And Cowork is buggy and interesting is the best way I could talk about Cowork. Not Claude Code is a lot less buggy. Yeah, I got something obvious really quick. Cowork was sort of falling on its face a little bit. That was an interesting use case. Hey, Carl, since we've mentioned you twice, but you said nothing. And listen, that might be because you're still, it's tough. Canada, USA yesterday. It's a lot. It's a lot to go through.
God, I'm out. I am out. You guys mentioned that. I'm out.
But wait till the end of the game and like all the goodness, and they brought the kids on the ice for Johnny Hot. Come on.
That doesn't mean shit. I'm sorry. That's means nothing. I don't care if they bring their families. I was like, no, don't care. Don't care. First of all, what the hell? Like, we have like on paper, literally like star after star after star after star. I was like, what in the blue hell? Do it. Not to be talking to the game in this context, because that is irritating to a lot of Canadians.
Oh, listen, if you're a Canadian and you watch that game, not AI news, but since it just happened, there were so many close goals. Now, the U.S. had one off the crossbar. Okay, that's super close, right? Could have been a goal there. But when you watch some of those goals, I mean, obviously our goalie was playing at another level. But yeah, I mean, look, the shot count alone was almost double by, I think, the end of the game, like 46 to 19 or whatever. So without a doubt, 42 shots on goal. Yeah, I mean, like, so I don't know. I mean, at the end of the day, the U.S. came out with the W, but it absolutely could have gone the other way. And I'm sure there's a lot of people who feel like it should have. But hey, we haven't won since in 46 years, so I'm taking the goal.
No, and I in fairness too, like, this is what makes it makes it really fun, because it's like one game, right? And then that's why when you play like the Stanley Cup, it's very, very hard to win, because you could win one game, but usually the better team wins, because best of 7, that's very hard to hide.
100%.
Very, very difficult to hide that in 4 games, right? 7-game series, that's really tough. So no, and what's awesome is like last year's 4 nations, this year's gold medal. It's more of like, can this help grow the sport even more?
Exactly.
Like last year was freaking through the roof, was amazing. And then obviously the Olympics this year. And then, so it generally, and it was like a pretty exciting game too. Because for us is like, I think it started at 5 a.m. on a Sunday. Probably made people are up on the Sunday.
Oh, it was like 8:10 for me. So it wasn't so bad. I was able to watch it live without
Yeah. So it was kind of neat. But obviously everything kind of like was tampered with what's happening in Mexico, which was everything was gonna say. My X feed was, I was like, oh, I don't want to dwell on any type of hockey news, but then it's like the moment I saw Mexico, it's like my entire feed is Mexico. I was like, holy cow. So,
by the way, Juice is watching the game now. Don't spoil it.
Watching the game now.
Too bad, Juice. I'm pretty sure he's joking. I would hope, but yeah, that's on you, dude. You come to a live show and get what you get. Like I'm not apologizing for anything on a live show. By the way, I will just say this too, because I know this is in AI, but it was a big event yesterday. So, but I can't. It's hard for me not to have love for John Cooper, who is Canada's coach, because John Cooper brought 2 Stanley Cups to Tampa when he was the coach of the Lightning. So I'll forever be a John Cooper fan, it's in terms of, what he brought to Tampa, because I lived here during those years, and it was mania, man. It was like hockey town here, which is so funny just for Florida and, Tampa to be a hockey town, but it's like a big deal here. So anyway. All right. Any other than do you have any AI Canadian news, Carl, to share with us? Do you have any?
No.
Any news in general?
We partnered with Germany on. So it's interesting because of like all the trade stuff, and the tariffs that we, our country partnered with Germany to partner with something else. I'm not quite sure what we're doing specifically. But yeah, apparently we partnered with Germany for an AI kind of standard. I'm not sure what it does, but that's news.
Well, it's interesting. The last couple of weeks, there's been federal news out of countries about like AI readiness. The U.S. set out a whole series of AI readiness standards that seemed sort of random and strange. Also set out There are AI training jobs at apprentice.gov, right? So it's not a bus certification or something you're getting real hands-on, but it was like, I don't know, 140 million, which is a lot personally, but as the US government, that doesn't sound like very much money that you're like adding to that.
Yeah.
So like that kind of stuff. And Canada had some AI initiatives like federally as well. I did not see the partnering with Germany, but that's super interesting. Nice.
One of the quick news stories I had, because we don't talk about them as much lately, but Perplexity, Samsung is adding Perplexity to the Galaxy AI. And it says it isn't just an app shortcut. The AI report, another newsletter, is saying that actually no, Perplexity will have access to Samsung Notes, Clock, Gallery, Reminder, and Calendar. I'm an Apple phone guy, so I don't know much about Samsung phones and such. But anyway, Perplexity will be adding to it, which, look, I think if I'm being honest, I do love Perplexity still. I've re-upped for an entire year, so that sort of tells you where I am on it. I just heard Matt Wolf still talk about how like Perplexity is sort of his go-to, and he still uses Comet. I've fallen out of Comet again. No rhyme or reason to it. I mean, Comet was great. That's the browser that Perplexity has, by the way, for anybody who's wondering what I'm talking about. But anyway, I would think if you're Perplexity, you have to continue to find new ways in which you can get embedded with other tech. And, Perplexity never really had a huge moat to begin with. It always seemed like something that a Google search with all their infinite, background could maybe swallow up or whatever. So I think this is kind of what I would expect to see. It doesn't feel too far off from years ago when like Facebook would have a physical button on like a BlackBerry phone, for anybody old enough to remember that. It was like the idea was that it was a shortcut, right? But it was basically a blue Facebook button that would have been with an F on it, and it was shortcut. It says so you could share your latest whatever. It's probably pre-image and pre-video. I remember this being years ago. But that's kind of what it feels like to me. It's like, hey, you got to do what you got to do. Perplexity has to get embedded as the search bar of choice that's just in these other devices and just makes life easy, whether it's smart TVs or smart objects or devices around your house. I personally wouldn't have a problem with that. If I had a Echo type device that used Perplexity, I'd be totally fine with that. It's like,
Yeah.
it's not for like, because I don't think the quality is there. I'm just thinking like, geez, man, you're going to get boxed out if you're not careful with, making you available on devices where people they're using their device day to day anyway, and they know it's their Samsung and they know Galaxy, but they're like, yeah, I don't know, it has this AI thing on it, and they don't know Perplexity, and they don't really care either.
Right.
It's really good, and that's all Samsung cares about. So it's like, I don't know. I don't know. Anyway, I'm not sure what Perplexity's next big move is. It's got to be something towards agentic workflows because that's where everything is moving towards. So I guess we'll have to wait and see how they're part of this next big push.
Yep. And so there are two things that happened for me with Perplexity this weekend. The first was they came out and said, we're not doing ads anymore.
That's right. Yeah.
And maybe it wasn't entirely an ad, but I swear the top answer on a query that I did was like, let's just say I was searching soap and it was Deft soap. It like the top answer was like, have you tried Deft soap? Deft soap is the best soap in the world for, all of the things that you just asked about. And I was like, how is that not? It's still an ad, Perplexity. Like, that was.
But here's what okay. Carl, when you have a chance, Carl had to jump. Okay, Carl's back. All right, so Carl, I'm curious about this too, because we talk a little bit about SEO and things, and I'm not super close to that world as much as I used to be back in the day, so I feel a little bit on the outside. But here's what I'm wondering to that question, Beth: is that Perplexity, or are we seeing I mean, we are seeing
Ooh.
websites that are getting better and better and better at having their websites read, as we learned last week with what Google has coming out. Forgive me, I can't think of what that was called, but Andy brought it to us. Was it
WebMCP?
Thank you.
No.
Not MCP. Web something.
Cloudflare has something too that's
They
turning.
did. We talked about that too.
Yeah. Yeah.
If I went back to the newsletter, I could find it super quick. But anyway, Google had come out with something, and basically the gist of it was, and we read, in fact, it's in the newsletter. You think I could remember because I put a whole section in about it for yesterday. So go sign up for the newsletter, folks. So you can read all these amazing things that I forget. But anyway, my point to saying all of this is, look, people are catching up. They're going to catch up in terms of like making websites more readable by AI. And the whole part of the piece that was inside the newsletter was about, you back in the day, it was like I said, it was desktop and mobile. Well, now it's human and AI, and you have to play for both. And so anyway, my whole point to that, Beth, is, are we going to see Perplexity and others like Gemini, whatever, come back with what feels like an ad, but Perplexity is like, no, we're hands up. We swear we don't do ads. We play no favorites. But the information that Perplexity is grabbing is tuned and is now coming back in such a way that feels like an ad.
Right. Well, but this is something that we have understood from years of SEO, right? Like, ideally, it answers the question. Had I asked, what is the best soap to blah, 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 you could come back with Deft. But you'd also come back with, and I didn't. I swear to God, I just can't remember what the thing was that I was searching.
I don't even know. That stuff is what you came up with. I just think that's clever.
But this was just sort of like a random thing. Like if this was an ad, it was a leftover ad because they're not supposed to do ads anymore. If this wasn't an ad, it was a really bad answer that seemed obviously like an ad, and you should like tweak your stuff, because all of us are doing things that we hope get found.
Sure.
And you're supposed to write it in the frame of a question, right? So like, what does every business person need to understand about being ready for AI? Right? That's a fine thing. I might ask that question. I would hope not to get back, AI readiness is a really important thing. And if you really want to know about AI readiness, you should go to AI Ready Acme, because AI Readiness Acme is the best. But like, at least hide it a little.
Yeah. Well, I agree. By the way, I want to apologize, Carl. You were absolutely right. It is WebMCP. I don't know why. I just didn't think it was MCP on the end of that. But you're correct. So you know where I found that? I went back to our newsletter. I read it because I knew it was in there. So Web Model Context Protocol is what they're talking about. For some reason, I just don't remember MCP being on there. Anyway, it's been a weekend. All right. Well, listen, I do have like I know it's like a Monday. We're kind of just, round robin this. The one thing I found interesting, somebody had screenshotted this on X, and it's a screenshot of Pro Plan Lite for ChatGPT, and it says the new ChatGPT Pro Lite plan, I guess I said that backwards, costs $100 per month. And somebody had a screen grab of, I think they were looking at the HTML on the back end, and these people do this stuff. They kind of find it in the deep in the code somewhere. How much of it is true or not, I'm not sure. There's some screen grabs here from a Tibor Blaho. Don't know that name. Yeah, you know that name. I don't. But anyway, they're saying that this is going to be their in between the $20 plan and the $200 plan. And if this feels and sounds a little bit about like how Anthropic does theirs, there's probably some reason for that to be competitive. So, look, I do pay for the $100 Claude plan. That is specifically because I'm using Claude Code every single day. And I'm sorry I didn't do it earlier, because it's really is saving me way more than $100 a month at the moment. Would I do that for ChatGPT? No, I don't think so. But that's also because I'm not like in Codex, and I think that's a big sway, right? Like if I started really, really diving deeper into Codex, then maybe so. But anyway, I just thought I'd ask you guys, Carl, I know you've had the bigger plan, at least in the past. I don't know if you still do. What's your take on the $100 in between here?
I don't know what exactly is on the $100 thing. I still have my 200. It was interesting because Nicole Leffer and I were talking this weekend, and she was wondering, it's like, there's a lot of people who you see it. I've switched to Claude, but then other results were like ChatGPT's up, like everything's up. So it's like, and she was asking me, like, yeah, for my business, I use all. So there isn't one that I primarily dominate in.
Right.
And especially with Codex Spark, which is, well, I have never seen something that fast do, like, the work I would do, both technical and non-technical. So like I was building a business assessment app, and it took a while to do that in Claude Code. It took a while to do that in Codex. I planned it with Codex like high 5.3, but then I just had Spark execute it. It's the fastest thing I've ever seen. I was like, holy smokes. And because I showed Andy and Beth a non-technical task, how quick. I was like, I want you, like, I set it in a folder. I said, hey, analyze this, summarize this, and give me a Word doc and do this. And it was like 20 seconds. What would have taken Claude Code, when I normally do it, 4, 7, 10 minutes. Did it in like 35 seconds. And I looked at the results, like, yeah, it's about comparable. It's obviously doesn't have the intelligence as Codex High, but that doesn't matter, because I remember they said, we're just testing it in this small group.
Yeah.
But we're going to deploy it. And I'm like, if you ever seen how fast this thing is, you're like, holy smokes, think if you ever used ChatGPT heavy, and how long that takes, cut that by cut it by 85%. It's just fast.
So by the way, the image that I have up on the screen is what was shared by Tibor. And it says pro plan, and he's kind of showing that it's showing in the down in the bottom right, is showing the $100. So it says, and I am not confirming this, I'm just telling you this is what he shared. Pro plan top features: unlimited access to our best models, unlimited use of advanced voice features, expanded priority speed Codex agent, the most image and video generation, and then it's showing it as $100 per month. So not sure, but like to your point, Carl, look, there's a lot of people where, yes, for the individual, like maybe $100 is a big deal per month. I mean, it would be for my personal budget. For scaled, for what I do, it's like laughable how cheap that is. It's laughable. So like, there's going to be a lot of people who use this, and because $100 is by far and away a great deal for what they're able to do. To your point, if you can use the tools.
Yeah, because whenever we recommend in businesses, we usually say do not ever just stick with one target. Like, so if your team does a lot of work in Excel, then definitely go with Claude, because your Claude for Excel, if you don't use that, and for me, anything that you do, and you work primarily in Excel, it's like whatever $140 a month you spend is nothing to how fast your team can get things done. Especially now it's on the just the regular $20 plan. Just prepared to get rate limited, cut a bit. So there's that, plus Claude Code, plus Claude for PowerPoint, which is really that great. It's okay. But then some teams are like you marketing teams, right? You're like, you generate a lot of like content, but you generate a lot of visuals. And it's like, you should be in Gemini.
Yeah.
And it also depends, like, are you on the Microsoft environment or are you the Google environment? Because if you're on the Microsoft environment, Google is going to be very tough for you to use in terms of output. Because if you have output, you can't put it into slides. Like, you put it into slides, but then you have to do a whole bunch of converting. So it's probably faster for you to do like use ChatGPT. Like, it's just certain things that in infrastructure wise,
because there's not one ubiquitous tool that solves for all. And I wanted to bring this up because you just kind of talked about it. I'll just give you guys a quick snippet out of my day yesterday. So I was helping my in-laws, and what we were doing is we were swapping stoves. I could go farther into that of why that was happening, but they live on another part of the neighborhood, so not terribly far away, and I was quite literally moving a stove back and forth. So in talking to my father-in-law, and also inevitably having to go to Lowe's because the proper brass reducer wasn't what we needed, that whole shit. Whatever, we were talking about like work that he done. And my father-in-law is very handy, can still to this day can redo an entire bathroom by hand and all. That's very impressive. And so he goes, I figured out a while ago. He's like, what's my price per hour? And he goes, and then I just basically say everything. Well, if it's above that number, I sub it out and I bring somebody in to do it. And if it's below that number, I'll handle it myself. And I think more people need to think that way, because we do it for business. Like, I'm a consultant, so everything is about the hour, and then the price and, getting things done. And Carl, you're right there too. And Beth, when you do consultant work. So we all play in this world. But the minute I step away from my business and I'm just standing in my kitchen, I don't default to, well, what is my value per hour for this particular task, and then determine whether I'm going to spend more or less. And what I'm learning more and more, especially with something like Claude Code, yes, I could look at it and go, hey, that's $100 expense on my family every month. I mean, Jesus, that's more. And I bitch and moan about how much, YouTube TV, I turned it off for 6 months of the year because I don't want to spend the $83. And I turn it right back on before the Georgia Bulldogs play. And I left it on through the Olympics this year. And then I shut it down because I don't want to spend $83 a month. Right. But $100 of Claude Code, and it's like not even really a consideration, because I'm feeling like, I don't know if you guys feel like this more and more. Hey, this is like having internet or not. This is like having electricity or not. What it enables me to do from an efficiency standpoint starts to not make it just, it's a subscription. And I we wrote about this in the newsletter too, about like, there was a conundrum on it that I did recently about, is AI really a utility? Should it be treated as a utility? And there was a whole conundrum 2 weeks ago on that. Go back and look at that or listen to that on Spotify if you like. But anyway, just wanted to bring that to you guys. Like, do you find yourself thinking, or maybe you already did you already kind of like put yourself in that, oh, I'm not going to go paint this room because my rate to paint this room is such and such, so I'm going to get somebody to come and do it. They're going to do a better job anyway. Because I kind of default to, like, I don't know, it's my house, I'm probably going to be the one painting that wall, Swayed it.
I think one thing that we have to keep aware of, because first of all the tools that I'm using, it's part of my business, so it is like overhead. Just it's all part of it, all written off, and that's cool. The thing though, I think we have to keep aware of is when now, I don't know if you saw that chart that was going around, where only 0.001% of the population was using some sort of code interface, and then the bunch of greens for people who just use ChatGPT or just for free models, and then there's only so many people who use paid models, and then the rest of the world has zero. How fast that goes, I don't know, but when you talk about like per hour, you got to start thinking too, okay, my agent can do this. What is the hour like comparison to somebody who executes that task? I don't know. It's very different company to company to company, or even yourself. Like, oh, if I hire someone to do this, because here's one. Think of like a wedding planner, right? Okay, what does a wedding planner do? I don't know. Never used one, but like there's a set of tasks. So, and I'm sure
save your freaking life, and you will want one if your kid decides to partner. Just my personal opinion.
I never had one either, Carl. And my wife and I handled it. We were too cheap for one partner.
We just split ours into two, one for family and one party. And that made the biggest difference because we didn't need to. Anyway, so, but whatever the wedding planner does, okay, of that, what if you had a wedding planner agent, what would that look like? I don't know. Because I'm just using that as an example. Then you're like, hey, These are the things that we need to plan a wedding for. This is what the agent can do by itself. This is a thing that agent cannot do by itself because it can't do. So what are the two? So now you have to start thinking about it. Or do you buy a package service for like, oh, we are a company that has agent. We are a wedding planning company that uses both agent and human. And this is the package. And our agent will do this. And then our humans will do this. And we charge significantly less or whatever that is because we can do this in a faster time for you because of these reasons.
So to Brian's point, that requires a certain amount of personal knowledge also, right? So I may feel very strongly about some choices for my wedding, but I do not have time to go and taste a bunch of cakes. I don't care, right? Like it's not a big deal, right? So that might be something that you outsource. I realize, don't come at me, cake people. I don't want to eat the cake.
I'm just saying, someday you're going to meet my wife, Beth, and you can tell her that. I'd love to hear your conversation.
There's no my Andrea would be like, "Are you nuts?"
But not to get off topic, but you'll meet Amanda in person, and that will be a fun conversation for you both.
They'll be like, "Nuts." Was like, of all the things she wants to do, that's the only thing she'll want to do.
Yeah, everything else can go.
Give a crap with that. I'll see.
Sorry, Beth.
I'll see.
Which is why it's a personalized trait, right? And so
point. Yeah.
In determining what you want to give over to an automation or an outsourcing, or for me, Claude Code and I had a conversation this weekend about, again, to go back to the compaction story in the beginning, like what before we get into this, what are you going to sub-agent out, right? Like, please sub-agent a ton of this stuff so that we can continue this conversation without compaction. I do not need all of the nitty-gritty details of what we're talking about to be in this conversation. And that is that. There's also Allie Miller posted, it's her latest post today on X. It's probably also on LinkedIn. Aim for deeper task chaining in Claude Code. If you find yourself always doing something back to back, like using Skill Creator and spawning a fresh Claude or two to judge the first one's output, just bake that in and automate it. And she has a suggested flow. But those sorts of things, right? That are what we want to do is put flags in our experience that say, "Oh, I've done that 3 times." Yep.
I think look. I like where this kind of is. Greg was saying he's like, yeah, you guys are getting into it, which I always appreciate because, like, Greg. If you know Greg from anytime we brought Greg Walters into our, I want to make sure I say his last name right, into our conversation. Usually, Greg will be in the comments, and I'll catch his prompt or his comment, and it'll say something like, "It's not the CRM." The CRM is dead. It's AI to AI, whatever, right? That's usually Greg is like, you got it wrong. You got to go a level above this, right? But so I'm gonna go a Greg level above this, back to the wedding planner. Now, we didn't have one, but that doesn't matter. My point to it is this: I think you were right, Carl, and I think when I hear what you're saying too, Beth, which is, look, there's certain things agents could do today reliably. I think that I am sure some wedding planners are already using on behalf of their clients just to make the wedding planner. Now, whether they've translated that into cheaper costs for the client, probably not, because the client doesn't realize they have more efficient ways to do it, and they're going to charge what they're going to charge and spend less hours doing it as business. However, just like back in the 90s, I always tell the story about being on Prodigy and my mom doing a hotel reservation on Prodigy. This is in the 90s, and immediately calling the hotel from the phone next to the computer to validate that because she didn't trust that it happened. Like, that wasn't something that was normal. Right now, I would pick up my phone from Google Maps. I'd be done in 30 seconds. I'd have that hotel reservation, right? No problem. So my point to it is, like, I think you guys are right. And where I see this going is, yeah, you know what? There's certain things. I got married in Key West, which is, at the time I was living in Georgia, so I wasn't even as close as I was now. I was 14 hours away from where I got married, Sure, there's things that a wedding planner down there locally could have really helped Amanda and I out because it was a destination type wedding, right? And so we couldn't be there for all the things. But as we move along, people are just going to become more used to the fact that the agents can and will do everything that's like from menu selection to options to locations to flowers to the things, right? All the things that people care about, or the arch rental, right? You know, and who's going to handle that or whatever. And I think what we'll see, like a lot of industries like this, is that the place where the humans come into the conversation is just much deeper down the funnel. And so we talk about this all the time in sales too. Like, yeah, okay, we have a lot that's going on from the sales side. And so there's ways now to get involved deeper down the funnel when there's really strong buyer intents. But don't forget that the buyer also is moving farther down. And so they have all the abilities to do all the research that indicate that they have a stronger buying sense. And so we're just moving, like, we're moving maybe not down the funnel, but we're moving the humans up the rungs of the ladder. We're not standing on the floor anymore. We're standing whatever. I don't know what the analogy is there. But I kind of feel like that with anything that's like a wedding planner. It's like, yeah, there's still going to be 1,000 reasons why you want a personal relationship with your wedding planner, your real estate agent, your photographer for your family. You may go back to them year over year, not because AI can, because it's just simply not the personal relationship you have built and you enjoy, you know, and that's not going to go away, the human contact of it. But I do think we'll just get all used to the fact that a lot of it gets handled before you really get involved. And yes, maybe it gets down to, you know, the robots could taste the cake, I suppose, for you, Beth. But at some point, like, you're going to have to like look at the things and touch the things and whatever. But that will just be much later in the process and a lot more hands off before it gets there, I think. I don't know. Does that make sense? Am I rambling? Does that make sense from where you guys see it?
I do. And I think so there was a Nate Jones post, the most recent one, where he's talking about how the web is now like it's splintering into web. Like, he was talking about web for, there's people for the web, like web, and then there's like agent, like web for the agent, right? Its own search engine, its own like how to read different websites, how you have to build versus how it's moving. So very neat, which then translates into the real world too, because you're like, okay, so what is done online and then what is done in person, and how do you merge those two? Because like the businesses that will come out of that will be very different. So you like, interesting wedding planner, could it be the combo that we talked about? Could it be an agent orchestrator that hires the wedding planner and says, do whatever you need to do, but here's all the other stuff that needs to happen outside of that wedding planner, or here's the scope. So there's all sorts of combinations that you could go into. Or, you know, like, I think was it Cisco or somebody said here that people who are gluten-free, or like Jennifer said, not sugar. It's like, hey, you tell your agent, now go out, give me a menu that has this, and it'll come back with all that for you and be like, oh, okay. And then you tell your wedding planner, I want this, or she does it, or he does it. And then you come back and you're like, okay, cool, I want to taste this, or I want to sample this. And this makes everything a lot faster.
Yeah, like, and if you said that to a ghost kitchen or something, you could have had 6 ghost kitchens.
Ghost kitchen for a wedding. That's amazing.
What I mean is that it could be, my point to it was not necessarily a ghost kitchen, but the concept that you could have put those requirements in there. And from the wedding planner standpoint, it's a little more decentralized, right? Because that could have been scoped out and gotten requests for proposals on from 6 makers of food that put things together in Key West that they're not like your traditional thing, but it goes out and they go, hey, you know what? We have the kitchen and we make gluten-free stuff all the time. In fact, we have all the equipment for it for no cross-contamination. This is a request that comes in for a thing. It's not our main business, but there's absolutely no reason we can't do it on a Saturday. You know, like, I think that's like kind of like, it's going to be really cool the way this enables probably more people to have a role if they want to. And because we said it's analogy palooza on here, I'll throw a woman out there. To me, it makes me think of like, you know, Bond movies or villain movies where they're like, who sent you? Who made you do this? And then, you know, usually that one main villain is like, not the big villain, the mini villain is like, I don't know. I just get a cell phone call. It's some supercell and it tells me where to go. And I literally don't know who's giving me these commands. Like, that's what I see as like the future is like, you know, I got married on a beach. I imagine people just like showing up on a beach, but it's the agent has put all the people together and they just show up and they're like, I literally don't know anybody else or why or what's going on. I just know that I got a 5 o'clock notice on my phone that says show up with this tray of noodles.
No why.
It is like,
I'm the sauce guy.
I got the sauce for the noodles. Like,
Not the same chef. That's right. It's not the same person. It's like 6 different caterers.
Right.
That they pick, like, it's just like one person is like, this is very interesting, like, but
Yeah.
you've got like the dishes that you want because it meets the criteria that you want,
Right.
and
And the agent coordinated all of it. They're like, we have no idea how all of y'all, we just know that you're here, and the agent made sure it happened.
all I know is that there'll be one wedding that's like, how come there's like 6 cakes here and they're children? That's right. Well, what's going on?
Yeah.
And you're like,
Yeah.
well, that's it. I have no choice. Like, I've already paid it. It's too late. I can't do anything. So
Yeah.
we're gonna have
This-
to go. with 6 cakes.
This is how I host American Thanksgiving. If there's something you'll be sad isn't on the table,
Yes.
bring it. You should bring what you want. And we
Bring it.
totally had like 5
Love
different kinds of potatoes on the table, right?
Yes.
Like, everybody's got their personal thing.
There's only one type of stuffing, and it's mine. I don't want to work for stuffing. I don't want to know your cool way, your new 2023 way you saw on TV. Don't mess with my mom's stuffing from 1983. Don't do it. Yeah, so I'll bring it, and you just don't worry about it. Yeah, I love that. All right, listen, I'm going to wrap this up because I got to run, and we're kind of on time anyway. I hope you all enjoyed our Monday ramblings. Greg said earlier, Brian, you are rambling. And but you're also making sense or something he said earlier. I missed what it said, but thank you, Greg. I appreciate you. I appreciate everybody in the comments, Jennifer, Jude, and everybody else in there. You guys make the show a lot of fun. You can see, obviously, we're always reading your comments. So keep commenting, keep being part of the conversation. Like, it literally changes the show, and we crack up and we bring your comments in, and you know, the serious and the fun ones as well. So you are literally, if you're in the comments, you are part of the live show. There's just no two ways about it. So if that's something that entertains you, or you like not entertains, but if that's something that excites you, or you want to be part of this show, well, you do have to be around during the 10 a.m. hour. That's where we are at 10 a.m. Eastern. But you can do it. Just go over to YouTube and join us. Okay, that's it. If you don't, by the way, I should just let you know you can join our Slack community by going to the Daily AI Show community.com, and there'll be an option to join the Slack community. It's a little bit more asynchronous, obviously, but if you can't make the live show, that's another fantastic way for you to be part of the conversation. All right, with that, I got to wrap it. So have a great day, and we'll see you all tomorrow. Thanks, everybody. Bye.